Welcome back to Prime Bloom, where we tackle the real-life struggles of aging with compassion, wisdom, and practical advice. It's always a pleasure to chat with you every day, and today I want to share something that might just open your eyes. Have you ever met someone who seemed to grow lonelier as they aged? Not because of health issues or mobility problems, but because something else was driving people away. I'm talking about subtle habits, those little things we do without even noticing. And the saddest part? They often sneak in so quietly, we don't realize they're harming us until it's too late. Take Linda, for example. She was the kind of woman everyone used to love being around. Warm, funny, full of life. But as the years passed, Linda noticed her phone didn't ring as often. Visits from her grandkids became fewer. Conversations with friends felt strained and awkward, and she couldn't figure out why. It hurt, deeply. She wondered if something was wrong with her. Was she not interesting enough anymore? Was she losing her touch? The truth was far simpler, and yet so much harder to admit. Linda had unknowingly picked up habits that were pushing people away. It was like building invisible walls between herself and everyone she cared about. It's not always about being sick or unable to get around. Sometimes it's about the energy we put out into the world. And if that energy feels heavy, negative, or dismissive, people will start to avoid it. They don't do it out of cruelty, they do it because being around it feels draining. So, what exactly are these habits? And more importantly, how can you recognize and change them before they take over your relationships? Let's talk about negativity. That's one of the biggest culprits. When Linda reflected on her conversations, she realized how often she led with complaints instead of kindness. Arches and pains, frustrations with the world, her disappointment with how things had changed, it all spilled out of her like a leaky faucet, and it soaked every conversation she had. Here's the problem: people want to feel uplifted, not dragged down. And it's so easy to fall into that trap when life feels like it's moving faster than you can keep up with. Especially when your body doesn't work like it used to, or when the world seems like it's changing too fast. But negativity, especially when it becomes a habit, can push away the people you love most. Studies have shown that constant exposure to negativity can actually increase stress levels, not only for you but for the people around you. And nobody wants to feel stressed every time they have a conversation. So, what did Linda do to turn things around? She made a conscious choice to start her conversations with something positive. Every single day, she found one thing to be grateful for. The sunset was beautiful last night. I had the best cup of coffee this morning. It didn't have to be anything big, just something good. The shift was subtle but powerful. People noticed. Her friends started reaching out more. Her grandkids lingered longer during visits. They didn't feel the need to rush away. Linda also gave herself permission to vent but set limits. She allowed herself a few minutes to get her frustrations out, but then she moved on to something brighter, and she became more curious about others. Instead of launching into her own complaints, she asked questions like, "What's exciting in your life right now?" Or, "Tell me about that new game you're playing." This approach transformed Linda's relationships. And the best part? It wasn't about pretending life was perfect or ignoring real struggles. It was about making room for joy, connection, and curiosity. It was about shifting her focus from frustration to appreciation. I know it's not easy to break out of negative patterns, especially when they feel so familiar, so comfortable, but it's absolutely possible, and you deserve to feel connected and valued. The energy you put out is the energy you receive. What if you could change the way people feel around you simply by choosing positivity more often? Imagine the laughter, the warmth, the genuine connections you could nurture. It's not about being perfect. It's about making small, deliberate changes that can transform your relationships. If this resonates with you, If you're ready to make a change, I want you to type Prime Bloom in the comments below. Let's see how many of us are ready to spread positivity and connection, one conversation at a time. And stay tuned, because there's so much more to uncover. In the next part of this video, we'll dive into another common habit that sneaks up on us as we age. And it's one that most people don't even realize they're doing until it's already driven their loved ones away. But don't worry, because I'm going to show you exactly how to recognize it and what you can do to fix it. So, if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to hit that button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next. I'm so glad you're still here with me. It shows me you're ready to embrace the kind of changes that can bring joy and connection back into your life. And if you're new to Prime Bloom, welcome. You're in the right place. We just talked about Linda's journey to break free from negativity. It wasn't easy for her to face those truths, but her determination to reconnect with her family and friends made all the difference. But there's something else Linda was struggling with, a problem that crept in slowly, almost invisibly, but was just as harmful as her habit of being overly critical. And it's something a lot of us fall into without even realizing it. Linda had always been the kind of woman who took pride in her appearance. Back in her prime, she loved putting on her favorite perfume, styling her hair just right, and choosing outfits that made her feel confident and beautiful. She wasn't vain, just someone who enjoyed the little rituals of self-care. But as the years went by, that spark began to fade. It started with small things: skipping a hair appointment here, choosing looser, more comfortable clothes instead of the stylish ones she used to wear. Then she stopped wearing perfume altogether, convinced that nobody would notice or care. Before she knew it, she was living her days in the same old house clothes, barely glancing at herself in the mirror. Linda convinced herself that it didn't matter. Why bother, she would think. I'm not trying to impress anyone. But deep down, she felt different. And that difference showed up in her interactions with others. Strangers who once complimented her bright smile or colorful scarf now seemed to barely notice her. Friends invited her out less frequently. And when her grandkids came to visit, they didn't seem as excited to be around her. One afternoon, Linda's daughter Emily came by for a visit. As they chatted over coffee, Emily hesitated before saying, "Mom, is everything okay? You don't seem like yourself lately." Linda bristled at first, feeling defensive. What was wrong with being comfortable? But Emily's words stuck with her long after she left. That night, Linda looked at old photos of herself and barely recognized the woman in those pictures. Where had that vibrant, joyful woman gone? Why had she let herself fade into the background of her own life? The truth was, neglecting her appearance wasn't just about clothing or makeup. It was about how she saw herself. Somewhere along the way, she had lost her sense of self-worth. She had stopped valuing herself enough to show up for herself. And it wasn't just affecting how others saw her, it was affecting how she saw herself. Studies have shown that the way we present ourselves to the world has a direct impact on our mental health and emotional well-being. It's not about vanity, it's about self-respect. When you take care of yourself, you send a powerful message to your own mind that you are worth the effort. And when you feel good about yourself, others notice. It's like your inner light shines just a little bit brighter. Linda knew she needed to make a change. She decided to start small. The next morning, she brushed her hair, put on her favorite blouse, and even dabbed on a little bit of that perfume she used to love. It felt strange at first, almost silly, but as the scent filled the air, she felt a warmth she hadn't experienced in years, a sense of familiarity and joy. Encouraged by that small success, Linda made an effort to get dressed every morning, even if she had nowhere special to go. And when her daughter invited her out for lunch a week later, Linda showed up wearing a bright, colorful scarf that made Emily's eyes widen with surprise. "Wow, Mom, you look amazing," Emily said with genuine delight. And for the first time in ages, Linda felt seen, not just by her daughter, but by herself. She remembered the woman she used to be, the one who took pride in her appearance, because she valued herself. But it didn't stop there. As Linda began to pay more attention to her appearance, her confidence grew, and that confidence spilled over into other areas of her life. She found herself feeling more energetic, more willing to go out and socialize. She even started a morning exercise routine, nothing too intense, just some stretches and light movement to get her body feeling good. And with that newfound energy came something even more important: joy. Linda wasn't changing herself for anyone else. She was doing it for herself. And that made all the difference. The warmth and connection she had been missing started to return, little by little. Friends reached out more often, and her grandkids didn't seem so distant anymore. People responded to her energy because it was genuine, positive, and inviting. If you've been feeling like Linda, you've lost that spark, like you've faded into the background, please know this: it's not too late. You deserve to feel good about yourself. You deserve to wake up feeling confident and excited about your day, even if it's just a simple, quiet one. Try it. Tomorrow morning, instead of slipping into those same old house clothes, choose something you love, something that makes you smile, even if it's just a favorite blouse or a spritz of perfume. It's not about impressing anyone. It's about honoring yourself. And if you feel inspired to take that small step, drop a prime bloom in the comments below. Let me know you're ready to start showing up for yourself, just like Linda did. There's something so powerful about embracing who you are, about remembering your worth and showing it to the world. And the best part? It's never too late to rediscover that joy. Stick around, because in the next part of this video, I'm going to share another habit that steals our happiness. It's something that so many of us struggle with, especially when the world feels like it's moving too fast. And you might be surprised by just how easy it is to overcome once you know how. If you're finding value in these stories and advice, make sure to subscribe to Prime Bloom and tap that notification bell. We're just getting started, and there's so much more to share. Ready for the next chapter? Let's keep going. I'm so glad you're still here with me on Prime Bloom. If you're finding these stories helpful, you're not alone. We're building something special here, a community of people who are ready to embrace change and rediscover joy. And today, we're diving into something else that can quietly steal away your happiness if you let it. By now, you know Linda's story. She made incredible progress by shedding negativity and taking pride in her appearance again. It was like watching a flower bloom after a long, harsh winter. Her energy was brighter, her mood lighter, and her relationships were beginning to heal. But there was something else holding her back, something she hadn't even realized was such a big problem until her granddaughter pointed it out. Linda had always prided herself on her strong will and independence. She had her ways of doing things, and she stuck to them. After all, why change what had worked perfectly fine for decades? But the world kept moving forward, even when Linda wanted it to stay just the way it was. And slowly, that stubbornness became a barrier, shutting her off from the very people she wanted to stay close to. It all started with a simple text message. Linda's granddaughter, Mia, sent her a photo of her newest painting. Mia was a budding artist, always experimenting with colors and techniques. Linda loved hearing about her creativity. But there was just one problem. Mia sent her the picture through a group chat. Linda had never bothered to learn how to use it. "Why can't she just call me like she used to?" Linda grumbled, frustrated by the endless parade of little icons and notifications on her phone. She was too stubborn to ask Mia for help, convinced that if something was important enough, Mia would call her directly. Days went by, then weeks, and Linda noticed she was hearing from Mia less and less. The phone calls became shorter and further apart. Something was changing, and it hurt. Linda missed her granddaughter terribly, but she didn't understand why Mia seemed so distant. It wasn't until Emily, Linda's daughter, brought it up one afternoon that the truth came spilling out. "Mom, Mia feels like you're not interested in her life anymore. She tries to include you, but you never respond in the group chat. She thinks you're ignoring her." Linda's heart sank. Ignoring her? She had never meant to make Mia feel unimportant. It was just that the technology felt so confusing, so foreign. She had decided long ago that she was too old to learn all that nonsense. And now, her stubbornness had cost her precious moments with her granddaughter. The worst part was realizing how easily it could have been avoided. All it would have taken was a little patience, a little humility. Instead of admitting she didn't know how to use the chat, she had shut herself off from Mia's world altogether. Research shows that staying mentally active and embracing new challenges as we age can significantly boost cognitive function. It's not about mastering every new piece of technology, about keeping your mind engaged, curious, and open to learning. And most importantly, it's about staying connected to the people who matter most. Linda knew she had to make a change. The very next day, she called Mia and said something she hadn't said in years. "Honey, can you teach me how to use that group chat?" Mia's delight was like a burst of sunlight. "Of course, Grandma, it's really easy, I promise. I'll walk you through it." They spent the next hour on the phone, laughing as Mia patiently guided her through each step. And when Linda finally sent her first message to the group chat, "Hi everyone, this is Grandma. Mia taught me how to use this thing," the responses poured in. Heart emojis, cheerful messages, and jokes from her grandchildren that made her smile wider than she had in ages. The best part? Mia started reaching out more often. Pictures, silly memes, updates about her art projects. Linda was finally a part of her granddaughter's world again, and it felt amazing. It's funny, isn't it? How something as simple as learning to use a new feature on her phone could make such a big difference in her relationships. But it wasn't just about the technology. It was about being willing to change, to learn, to admit when she needed help. It was about stepping outside her comfort zone and showing her family that she cared enough to try. Linda learned that her stubbornness was never about being strong or independent. It was about fear of change, fear of failure, fear of feeling left behind. And by letting go of that fear, she discovered something beautiful: the courage to grow. So if you find yourself feeling frustrated by the new and unfamiliar, remember Linda's story. Remember that it's okay to ask for help, to make mistakes, to learn at your own pace. The important thing is that you try, because staying connected to your loved ones is worth every moment of effort. Here's my challenge for you today. Think of something you've been avoiding because it feels too complicated or frustrating. Maybe it's learning how to text, trying out a new recipe, or even just figuring out how to make a video call. Whatever it is, give yourself permission to try. Ask for help if you need it. You might be surprised by how much closer it brings you to the people you love. If you're ready to let go of that stubbornness and embrace something new, type Prime Bloom in the comments below. Let's see how many of us are ready to grow, just like Linda did. And if you're finding value in these stories and advice, make sure you're subscribed to Prime Bloom and hit that notification bell. We've still got more to explore, including one of the most common habits that keeps people feeling trapped and isolated as they age. It's something Linda struggled with for years before she finally broke free. And the lesson she learned might just surprise you. Stick around, because the next part of Linda's story is one you won't want to miss. I'm so happy you're still here with me on Prime Bloom. If you've been enjoying Linda's story, you're not alone. Her experiences are real, relatable, and they hit home for so many of us. But we're not done yet, because there's another habit that was quietly stealing joy from Linda's life, a habit she clung to for years, never realizing how much it was holding her back. And if you've ever struggled to let go of the past, you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. Linda had always been sentimental. She treasured her memories like precious jewels. Photos, old birthday cards, childhood mementos from her kids, letters from friends she hadn't spoken to in decades. To Linda, everything had value. Everything held a story. And that's a beautiful thing, isn't it? Memories are meant to be cherished. But somewhere along the way, Linda's love for the past began to overwhelm her present. Her home, once warm and inviting, had turned into something else entirely. Boxes stacked high in closets, papers crammed into drawers, clothes she hadn't worn in years filling every inch of her wardrobe. It was like a maze of memories, but instead of feeling comforted, Linda felt trapped. And the worst part? She didn't even realize it was a problem. It was just a normal day when Emily came over for coffee. As they sat in the kitchen, sipping their tea, Emily's gaze wandered to the piles of magazines on the counter, the boxes that lined the hallway. "Mom," she said gently, "I think you might be holding on to too much." Linda's first reaction was defensive. "It's all important, Emily. You wouldn't understand. Every piece of this house has meaning to me." But as the days went by, Emily's words stayed with her. Linda started to see her home with fresh eyes. The clutter wasn't just physical, it was emotional. All those things she clung to weren't just items. They were pieces of her past she couldn't let go of. And with each object she kept, she was making less and less room for the present. Linda's reluctance to let go wasn't just about possessions. It was about the fear of losing the parts of herself that those items represented. Old photos reminded her of when her children were small. Letters from friends who had passed away brought back the warmth of long-ago conversations, and the thought of letting any of it go felt like betraying her own history. But holding on to all of it was suffocating her. Research shows that clutter can significantly increase stress and anxiety. It makes it harder to focus, harder to relax, harder to feel joy. And for Linda, it was a constant, heavy weight she carried every single day. She realized she needed help, and this time, she wasn't afraid to ask for it. Emily came over the following weekend, and together, they began the long process of sorting through the mountains of things Linda had accumulated. It wasn't easy. In fact, it was one of the hardest things Linda had ever done. Each item they picked up came with a memory, and letting go of it felt like letting go of a piece of herself. But Emily was patient. She listened as Linda told the stories behind each old photograph, each yellowed letter, each forgotten trinket. And slowly Linda began to see that the memories weren't in the objects themselves, they were in her heart. Linda decided to keep only the things that truly brought her joy. She made a scrapbook of her favorite photos and kept a small box of letters that meant the most to her. Everything else? She donated, recycled, or threw away. It was painful at first, but as the clutter began to disappear, something incredible happened. Linda's home started to feel lighter, brighter. She could breathe more easily, and with each empty shelf and clear surface, her mind felt clearer too. The real breakthrough came when Linda invited Mia over for the first time since decluttering. Mia's eyes lit up the moment she stepped inside. "Wow, Grandma! It feels so nice in here," Mia said with a grin. And that moment, that simple, genuine compliment, made all the effort worth it. Letting go of the clutter wasn't just about making her home more livable. It was about freeing herself from the emotional baggage she'd been carrying for years. And once she made peace with her past, she found herself feeling more present than she had in ages. And that's something I want you to think about. Are you holding on to things that are weighing you down? It's okay to cherish memories. It's okay to keep the things that bring you joy. But when the past starts to overwhelm your present, it's time to make a change. Here's my challenge for you. Pick one small area of your home, a drawer, a shelf, or even just a box. Go through it, piece by piece, and ask yourself, does this bring me joy? Does it serve me now? If the answer is no, it might be time to let it go. And if you're willing to give it a try, type Prime Bloom in the comments below. You're not just decluttering your home, you're making space for joy, connection, and peace. And you deserve that. Linda's journey didn't stop there. With each positive change she made, her world grew a little brighter. But there was still one more habit she needed to tackle. And it's something so many of us struggle with as we grow older. It's the tendency to let frustration and impatience steal away our kindness and calm. But Linda's about to discover that patience, true patience, can transform her relationships in ways she never imagined. And I can't wait to share that part of her story with you. If you haven't subscribed to Prime Bloom yet, now's the time. Hit that button, turn on notifications, and stick around because there's so much more to share. I'll see you in the next chapter. I'm so happy you're here with me on Prime Bloom. It's like sharing a cup of tea with a good friend, diving deep into the things that really matter. Linda's journey has already inspired so many of you, and I can't thank you enough for sharing your own stories and thoughts in the comments. It's a beautiful reminder that we're all walking this path together. So far, we've seen Linda face her negativity, reclaim her sense of self-worth, open herself up to new ways of connecting, and free herself from the clutter of her past. But there was still something else quietly holding her back. And this one crept into her life so slowly, she didn't even realize it was a problem until it nearly pushed everyone away. Linda had always been a kind and patient person, but as the years went by, she noticed herself growing more irritable, quicker to snap at people. Little things that never used to bother her suddenly felt unbearable. A slow driver on the road? She'd grumble under her breath the entire time. A cashier taking a little too long to bag her groceries? She'd roll her eyes and tap her foot with impatience. The worst part was when she started snapping at her own family. Mia would come over to help her with something on the computer, and Linda would grow frustrated within minutes. "Why is it so complicated?" she'd mutter. "Everything was so much simpler back in my day." Mia, with her youthful energy and endless patience, would just smile and try to help. But Linda could see the disappointment in her eyes, and that hurt more than anything. One afternoon, Linda was at the grocery store, waiting in line as a young cashier fumbled with her bags. He was new, Linda could tell by the way his hands shook slightly as he tried to pack everything just right. And Linda's frustration was building like a wave ready to crash. "Can you hurry it up, please?" she snapped, before she could stop herself. The boy's face fell. His hands trembled more. And suddenly, Linda saw herself from the outside, a grumpy woman, lashing out at someone who was just doing his best. Her heart sank as guilt washed over her. What had happened to her patience? The kindness she used to be so proud of? That night, Linda lay awake, thinking about that poor cashier's face. She remembered Mia's gentle smiles as she tried to help her with technology. And she remembered how Emily had started calling less often. Her voice always rushed, as if she was nervous to say the wrong thing. It all hit Linda like a punch to the chest. She had been driving people away with her impatience, and not just strangers, her own family. She realized then that impatience wasn't just a bad habit. It was a wall she was building around herself, brick by brick. And if she didn't change, she would end up alone. It wasn't easy to face that truth, but Linda had learned by now that the hardest truths were often the ones most worth facing. So, she made a promise to herself to do better, to be better. The next time Mia came over to help her with her phone, Linda caught herself the moment she felt frustration bubbling up. Instead of snapping, she took a deep breath and said, "I appreciate you taking the time to help me, Mia. I know I can be difficult, but I'm trying to be more patient." Mia's eyes lit up with surprise and relief. "Grandma, it's okay. I know it's hard, but I love helping you, and I love spending time with you." Those words warmed Linda's heart in a way nothing else could, and from that day on, she made patience a priority. Every time she felt irritation creeping in, she'd pause, breathe, and ask herself, is this really worth getting upset over? Sometimes it was, but most of the time it wasn't. And every time she chose patience, the rewards were immediate. Conversations with her family lasted longer, laughter came more easily, and the people she loved felt welcomed instead of criticized. Research shows that choosing patience can significantly reduce stress and improve relationships. It's not about pretending things don't bother you, it's about choosing how you respond. And Linda found that when she responded with patience, kindness came naturally. But the biggest surprise came when Linda went back to that same grocery store. The young cashier was there again, still learning, still fumbling a bit with the bags. But this time, Linda smiled at him and said, "You're doing a great job. Keep it up." His smile was pure relief and gratitude, and it made Linda's whole day feel brighter. It made her realize just how powerful a simple act of kindness could be. You see, patience isn't just about being calm. It's about giving yourself the space to choose kindness over anger, to build bridges instead of walls. And in a world that often feels rushed and unforgiving, patience is a gift you can give not just to others, but to yourself. So, here's my challenge for you. The next time you feel your patience running thin, take a deep breath, pause, remind yourself that kindness is always an option. And if you're ready to embrace patience as Linda did, type Prime Bloom in the comments below. You might be surprised by how much of a difference it can make, for you and for everyone around you. But Linda's journey isn't over yet, because there's still one more habit she had to overcome, one that had been quietly undermining her relationships for years. And it's something that so many of us struggle with, often without even realizing it. It's the habit of talking more than listening, of giving advice instead of truly hearing what others are saying. And for Linda, this realization was about to change everything. So if you haven't subscribed to Prime Bloom yet, hit that button and turn on notifications. Because in the next chapter, we're going to dive into the power of listening and how it can transform your relationships in ways you never expected. I can't wait to share it with you. I'm so glad you're still here with me on Prime Bloom. Following Linda's journey has been such a powerful reminder of how change is always possible, no matter how old we are or how long we've held on to habits that don't serve us. And today, we're going to explore something that nearly cost Linda one of the most precious relationships in her life. By now, you know Linda's heart. She's warm, caring, and fiercely loyal to her family. And when she decided to work on her patience, it opened up doors she thought had closed forever. But there was something else getting in the way of her relationships, something that was so subtle she didn't even realize it was a problem. Linda loved to talk. She always had. She was the kind of person who could spin a story so well that everyone around her would lean in, eager to hear what happened next. And when it came to giving advice, oh, Linda had a lifetime of wisdom to share, and she loved passing it on to her children and grandchildren. But somewhere along the way, her talking had turned into something else. It had become a habit of dominating conversations, always trying to guide, correct, or teach, instead of truly listening. It wasn't intentional. She believed she was helping, sharing her experiences, offering advice it felt like the right thing to do. But she didn't realize how much she was missing by always being the one to speak. The moment of truth came during a phone call with her daughter, Emily. They were chatting about Mia's upcoming art show, something Emily was clearly excited about. But before Emily could even finish her sentence, Linda jumped in. "Oh, I remember when I was your age, Emily. I had so many creative ideas. You should really encourage Mia to be more practical with her career, though. Art doesn't always pay the bills, you know." There was a pause on the line, a heavy, uncomfortable silence. "Mom," Emily said quietly, "I love you, but sometimes I feel like you're not really listening. It's like every time I try to talk to you, the conversation becomes all about you, and it's exhausting." Those words pierced Linda's heart. All she wanted was to feel connected to her daughter, to be a part of her life. But somehow, she had become so focused on sharing her own experiences that she had forgotten how to simply listen. Emily went on, "Mia needs your support, not your advice. She needs you to listen, and so do I." Linda was stunned and hurt, but more than anything she was ashamed. How had she let herself become so self-absorbed? How had she turned something as beautiful as conversation into something that drove her family away? After the call, Linda sat in her quiet kitchen, tears stinging her eyes. She realized that her desire to give advice had come from a good place. She wanted to protect her family, to share her wisdom. But by doing so, she had built walls instead of bridges. Linda decided then and there to change. She reached out to Emily and apologized, not with excuses or explanations, just a heartfelt apology and a promise to do better. "I'm so sorry, Emily," she said. "I didn't realize I was making you feel unheard. I want to listen, truly listen, and I want you to feel valued, not lectured." Emily's voice softened. "I appreciate that, Mom, and I appreciate you. I just want us to really talk, like we used to." From that day forward, Linda made a conscious effort to change the way she communicated. Instead of interrupting or offering advice, she practiced active listening. She asked open-ended questions like, "What was the best part of your day?" or "How does that make you feel?" And then she would wait, patiently, without rushing to fill the silence. It wasn't always easy. Old habits die hard, and there were times when Linda slipped up, offering advice when it wasn't needed. But each time she caught herself and tried again. And slowly, the conversations with her family became deeper, warmer, and more genuine. Her granddaughter, Mia, noticed the change right away. Instead of dreading their phone calls, Mia looked forward to them. She felt heard, understood, and respected. And that simple shift brought them closer than ever. Linda also discovered something surprising. By truly listening to others, she was learning new things about them, things she had never taken the time to notice before. She discovered that Mia's passion for art wasn't just a hobby, it was a calling. She learned that Emily was going through a rough patch at work and needed someone to talk to, not someone to lecture her. In time, Linda realized that listening was more than just a skill. It was a gift she could give her family every single day, and that gift was worth far more than any advice she could offer. Studies have shown that active listening improves relationships, builds trust, and fosters emotional intimacy, and Linda was living proof of that. The more she listened, the more connected she felt to her family, and the best part? They felt the same way. If you've been feeling disconnected from someone you care about, try this. The next time you talk to them, set aside your urge to offer advice or jump in with your own experiences. Just listen. Ask questions that invite them to share more, and then really hear what they have to say. It might feel strange at first, but I promise you the results are worth it. If you're ready to start listening more and talking less, type Prime Bloom in the comments below. Because we're all learning and growing together. Linda's story doesn't end here. There's one final habit she had to confront that was keeping her from truly embracing joy and peace in her life. It's a habit that so many of us struggle with, especially as we get older. And when Linda finally faced it, her life changed forever. Stick around, because in the next chapter, we're going to talk about what it really means to let go of the past and forgive not just others, but yourself. And if you haven't subscribed to Prime Bloom yet, make sure you do, because there's so much more to share, and I don't want you to miss a thing. I'll see you in the next chapter, my friend, and remember, listening is one of the greatest gifts you can give to the people you love. I'm so glad you're still with me here on Prime Bloom. It's been an incredible journey watching Linda discover her own strength, rebuild her connections, and embrace the power of listening. But her story isn't over yet, because there was one more habit she needed to confront that had been quietly building walls between her and the people she loved most. Linda had always prided herself on being independent. She was the woman who could do it all, the one who never asked for help, even when she desperately needed it. And for years, that fierce independence served her well. It gave her confidence, pride, and a sense of control over her life. But as the years went by, something began to shift. The little tasks that used to be effortless started feeling like mountains. Carrying heavy groceries, reaching for something on a high shelf, even just navigating her phone, all of it started feeling more difficult. And Linda, being Linda, refused to ask for help. Why? Because she didn't want to feel like a burden. She didn't want her family to think she was helpless. And deep down, she feared that accepting help meant losing her independence altogether. So, she kept quiet, pushed herself through the pain. And every time someone offered to lend a hand, she brushed them off with a tight smile and a firm, "No, thank you. I've got it." But the truth was, she didn't have it. And her refusal to accept help was pushing people away, even when all they wanted to do was support her. One afternoon, Linda was carrying groceries from her car when a young man from the neighborhood walked by. He saw her struggling and offered to help. "Need a hand with that, ma'am?" he asked with a kind, easy smile. But Linda's pride flared up like a match to dry leaves. "No, I'm fine," she snapped, her voice sharper than she intended. The young man nodded, his smile fading as he walked away, and Linda was left there, her arms shaking under the weight of the bags, her back aching, and her heart heavy with shame. Why had she been so rude? He was only trying to help. Later that evening, Linda replayed the moment in her mind. She realized her refusal to accept help wasn't about strength. It was about fear. Fear of admitting she needed help. Fear of looking weak. Fear of being a burden. And that fear had turned her into someone she didn't recognize. Someone who pushed away kindness instead of embracing it. Someone who chose loneliness over connection. The next time Mia came over, Linda swallowed her pride and asked her for help fixing her television remote. It was something simple, something Mia could have figured out in seconds. But for Linda, it was a monumental step. "Mia, could you help me with this? I can't seem to get it to work," Linda said, her voice small and uncertain. Mia's face lit up. "Of course, Grandma. I'd love to help." Linda watched as Mia fiddled with the remote, pressing a few buttons and explaining the problem as she went. But it wasn't just about fixing the remote. It was about sharing a moment, about allowing her granddaughter to give something back, to feel needed and appreciated. And when Mia smiled and handed the remote back to her, Linda felt something inside her soften. For the first time in a long while, she realized that accepting help wasn't a sign of weakness. It was a gift, a way of building bridges instead of burning them. It made her think of all the times she had pushed Emily away when she offered to help around the house, or the way she brushed off her neighbor's kindness when he offered to carry her groceries. All of those moments she had turned down connection out of pride and fear. Linda decided it was time to change. The next time her daughter came over and asked if she needed help with the garden, Linda said something she hadn't said in years. "Yes, I'd love that. Thank you." Emily's eyes widened with surprise, but then her face broke into a smile. They spent the afternoon pulling weeds and planting flowers, laughing and chatting like they hadn't done in years. And the work? It felt lighter, easier. Not because it was any less difficult, but because Linda had finally allowed someone to share the load. Accepting help didn't make Linda feel weak or helpless. It made her feel connected, loved. It was a revelation that changed the way she looked at the people around her. She began to see their offers of help for what they really were, expressions of care and kindness. And in accepting those gestures, Linda found something she hadn't felt in a long time: true connection. Research shows that allowing others to help us fosters emotional intimacy and deepens relationships. It's a way of saying, I trust you, I value you, I welcome you into my life. And for Linda, that simple act of letting others in made all the difference. So, if you've been struggling to ask for help or even just to accept it, remember Linda's story. Remember that it's okay to lean on others. It's okay to let people show you they care. Because that's what love is, isn't it? Not just giving, but allowing yourself to receive. And if you're ready to open your heart to the kindness of others, type Prime Bloom in the comments below. Let's see how many of us are willing to let go of our pride and embrace the support that's right there waiting for us. But Linda's journey isn't quite over, because there's still one more habit she needed to confront that was stealing her joy without her even realizing it. And when she finally faced it, everything changed. Because this last habit, it's all about embracing the joy of life instead of living in fear. And the lesson she learned might just be the most powerful one of all. If you haven't subscribed to Prime Bloom yet, make sure you do, because this next chapter is the one you absolutely don't want to miss. I'll see you there, my friend. And remember, accepting help is not a weakness. It's an act of love. I can't tell you how much it means to me that you've stayed with me through Linda's journey. Here on Prime Bloom, we talk about real-life struggles and triumphs, and there's nothing more inspiring than seeing someone reclaim their joy and purpose. And now, it's time to share the final piece of Linda's story, a piece that completely transformed her life. By now, Linda had made incredible progress. She had shed her negativity, reclaimed her confidence, opened herself up to learning new things, decluttered her home and her heart, embraced patience, practiced true listening, and even allowed herself to accept help from others. But there was one last habit that had been robbing her of joy for years, and it was the hardest one of all to confront. Linda had spent so much time looking back. She replayed old hurts in her mind like a broken record, letting them cloud her present happiness. She carried regrets like heavy stones in her pocket, weighing her down until even the simplest joys felt distant and unreachable. There were friendships that had ended badly, words she wished she could take back, choices she would have made differently if only she had known better. And then, of course, there was the guilt for pushing her family away with her stubbornness, her impatience, her unwillingness to change. Those regrets swirled around her mind every day, like dark clouds that refused to pass. No matter how many positive changes she made, Linda couldn't truly be free until she faced those shadows head-on. One chilly morning, Linda sat by the window with her journal. She had started writing as a way to process her thoughts, something Emily had suggested months before. But today, Linda wasn't writing about her daily frustrations or her hopes for the future. Today, she was writing about her past. She wrote about her regrets, the mistakes she had made, the friendships she had let slip away, the moments she had hurt the people she loved without even realizing it. It was painful. Her hands trembled as she wrote, her heart heavy with shame and sorrow. But Linda kept writing. She wrote until her hand ached and the tears flowed freely. And then, when she was finished, she read her words aloud. She faced her regrets, her pain, her shame. She acknowledged them, honored them, and then she let them go. Linda tore the pages from her journal, took them outside, and set them alight in a metal fire pit she kept on her porch. She watched the paper curl and blacken, the words she had clung to for so long turning to ash and smoke. And as she stood there in the crisp morning air, Linda felt something shift inside her. Forgiveness, not just for others, but for herself. Forgiveness is one of the hardest gifts to give, especially to ourselves, but it's also the most powerful. Studies have shown that letting go of past grudges and regrets can improve mental health, reduce stress, and even boost our immune system. But for Linda, it was something even more precious. It was freedom. After that day, Linda made a conscious effort to forgive herself, whenever old regrets crept back in. Instead of dwelling on what she couldn't change, she focused on what she could do now. She reached out to old friends, made peace where she could, and accepted that some things were simply beyond her control. The biggest change, though, was how Linda chose to live her life moving forward. She made a decision to embrace joy, to actively seek out happiness instead of waiting for it to come to her. She started small, dancing in her kitchen to her favorite songs, painting her nails bright colors just because it made her smile, calling Mia just to hear her voice and share a laugh, saying yes to invitations instead of making excuses to stay home. Linda even took that long-awaited weekend trip with Emily, something she had always put off because she was saving for later. They laughed until their sides hurt, explored new places, and made memories Linda would cherish forever. And she didn't stop there. Linda made it her mission to fill her days with joy, curiosity, and connection. She joined a local book club, volunteered at a community garden, and even tried a few online cooking classes with Mia. Her life became fuller, richer, and more colorful than she ever thought possible. The transformation was remarkable, but it wasn't about changing who Linda was. It was about rediscovering the woman she had always been, the woman she thought she had lost to age, regret, and fear. Linda learned something beautiful. Joy isn't something that happens to you. It's something you choose every single day. It's in the laughter you share with friends, the kindness you show to strangers, the courage to forgive yourself for the past. It's about living in the moment, appreciating what you have, and giving yourself permission to be happy. If you've been struggling with regrets or holding on to pain from your past, I want you to try something. Write it down, everything that's been weighing you down, and then let it go. Burn it, tear it up, release it to the wind, because you deserve freedom, you deserve joy. And if you're ready to let go of the past and embrace the beauty of your life now, type Prime Bloom in the comments below. Let's see how many of us are ready to choose joy, just like Linda did. Linda's journey may be over, but yours is just beginning. Whether you're battling loneliness, struggling with your health, or simply searching for more purpose and happiness, you have the power to change your life, and you don't have to do it alone. Here on Prime Bloom, we're building something special, a place where you're supported, encouraged, and understood. So, if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do, because there's so much more to share, and I can't wait to continue this journey with you. Take care of yourself, my friend, and never forget you are worth every ounce of joy and love this world has to offer. I'll see you in the next video.